All righty, Marty, welcome. I know you've had a long week. I get you at the end of it. I'm so excited to talk to you about agree.com and talk to you about you just landed, I think, $3 million in pre-seed funding. So I want to hear about Agree. But first, you've got an impressive background in terms of a bunch of exits and your own fund. Can you tell me a little bit about Marty?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you. Yeah, I'll give you the quick, fast last 22 years of my career. Started computer science undergrad, fell in love with design, front-end engineering, started a company right out of school that eventually got acquired by Twitter in the early days, pre-Elon, when it was still called Twitter, still 140 characters. And then I just, got into kind of founder mode now that they call it. But had a few other companies after that. Did a stint at the White House in the Obama administration, but sold a company to Eventbrite, then one to Brex. The one to Brex had some pretty big impacts on how we think about Agree today because it really, we are embedded in the AR/AP side of things and so money movement in the BaaS banking as a service world too. And then that led us all the way up to pre-pandemic. We started a small venture capital fund that you alluded to, at $10 million, so small, all things considered, but investing in early stage companies. And some of Agree actually comes out of fund thesis, where since we're not only GPs, but we're also founders, part of our fund thesis is like, okay, what should exist, which is obviously not there, that's broken. And then like, if it did, like, how would we build it? And let's just go find founders building it. And Agree is one of the ones where since 2019 is the first time that we kind of put it on a whiteboard. We couldn't find anybody building it and no anyone building it the way we thought it should be. So eventually just got a little frustrated and said, hey, instead of raising for our next fund, because we had three funds in the adventure fund, if we're gonna do fundraising anyway, and fundraising is always a grind, let's go fundraise for something we're passionate about building and let's go back to being builders.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So where did that passion come from in terms of like what was the pain? And maybe we'll start with give me the high level of what Agree does. What problem you solve and how you solve it.
Yeah, so the easiest way to describe it is at the end of every signature, someone has to pay someone money, but every e-signature platform in the market right now just stops at the signature. And the question's like, why? We all know the deal's not done till the wire hits. So the fact that you signed, like, I don't care. You think about it from closing a SaaS sales agreement, right? I don't get my commission until the funds hit. If you're a founder, an investor signs a safe, I can't do anything with that till you wire the fund. Who cares about the signature? Like, yeah, we got it on this piece of paper and we'll take it to court if we need to, but really all I want's the money. And so like, why can't we go from one to the other? And then I saw, as a founder raising money, it was frustrating to have to like get on calls with the VC's bank and confirm my account routing number. Being on the VC side, it's frustrating to know that you're always, there's a potential for man in the middle attacks when you're sending account routing numbers over clear text and plain text and email. But then it's just frustrating. I know the one thing I'll say on this, just in terms of my own pain with it, is on the investor side. I noticed this dynamic switch that would happen. The founder, like I'm in, right? I'm going to invest. Let's just say $200,000. You're excited. You're like, okay, Marty, I'm going to send you the safe agreement to sign. I got a busy inbox. I got a lot of things going on today, so I didn't get to it. And you're hounding me and say, Marty, sign the safe, sign the safe. Hey, I got you, man. I'm founder friendly. Let me get to it tonight. I sign the safe. Then it's like, there's no wire instruction there, right? Because DocuSign doesn't know how to do that. So I'm like, do you want me to pay you? Like now I'm like, it's weird that I'm asking you to send me the stuff to pay you. Shouldn't you just be as proactive as you were with that? But eventually they sent it to me. Again, big inbox. Now they're hounding me again. Marty, wire. Okay, I'll do it right now. Let me pull up my bank's website, log it. Nobody likes working with their bank. But what's really funny is once I wire, right? They gave me these two strings of numbers, account and routing number, right? I put them in. I send the 200,000 out. Crickets on the other side now. He's hounding me all day long to sign and to wire. The founder's also busy with a big inbox, but now I'm hounding him. Did you get it? Did you get it? Like, did the funds make it? Like, I have this anxiety and terror that $200,000 is just in the ether somewhere,
Yeah.
and I don't know where it's at. And eventually the founder gets back to me because also busy. He's like, oh yeah, Marty, we got it. We got it. I'm just like, I live with this anxiety for 48 hours. Their anxiety that I didn't sign, but like, why was there no transparency? Why was there no record? Why don't we have a UPS tracking or FedEx tracking number when it comes to watching, when you sign, because we do have that in DocuSign, but like, when was the invoice opened? Let me go further, right? Like take the audit trail like all the way to the end of the conclusion. Like when was the invoice opened? When was the ACH like started? When did it actually hit the account? As you talk about sales, most salespeople they're out of the loop. Unless you're a two-person startup, sales doesn't have access to the bank account of the company. They don't
Right.
know when the funds hit. They have to wait for somebody in finance to tell them at the end of the month. But I'll stop there because I can go on about this forever.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting to me. And it sounds like it was the payments piece that was first in terms of how to fix or make e-signature better, right? Is the payments piece. But
So it was that was like the frustrating part of like, okay, payments plus e-signature should exist. How to do it, why to do it, where you do it, like unanswered questions. But like the whole, I just got stuck on this notion the deal's not done till the wire hits. So why does I saw a billboard while I'm coming to this fruition for Adobe's Echo Sign at the time. They renamed to Adobe Sign, but big billboard. It said send sign done. That was and I was
uh,
like, no, it's not done. It is
yeah,
not. And I was like, wow, it's so funny that your whole value in DocuSign is a very similar send sign done value prop, but like it's so weird that like they're so stuck on on like they put a billboard up that made it clear where you're broken. It's like a billboard for me almost and agree. It's like, no, it's not done until the wire hits. But really, from a product perspective, the unlock is why doesn't DocuSign do this? Why can't DocuSign do this? Why PandaDocs, HelloSign? And then when I started actually doing user research and talking to folks in sales, because everyone forgets it's not a lawyer that sends out legal contracts. The person that sends out the most amount of legal contracts for signature, salesperson sending out a sales contract. So I talked to them, and their biggest frustration with DocuSign was edit and review. It's like if I send you something and I got your last name wrong or the company name wrong and I have to fix it, I got to go all the way back to Microsoft Word. I got to change it. I got to make it a PDF. I got to upload it back to DocuSign. I got to put the little labels over all over again. And I thought, huh, why can you not edit in DocuSign? And it's because DocuSign doesn't know what's under there, what you uploaded. It could be a PDF of an NDA or it could be a picture of a horse. You're just putting labels over whatever you uploaded. And so for us, the unlock was OCR plus generative AI, right? So it's a timing thing. We needed Gen AI to hit a level of maturity, but now I can extract all the content out of a contract. And once I've done that, now I can redraw it in HTML, which means I can edit it, just like a Google Doc. But it also means in that grabbing of the content, what's in a contract? All the payment terms, who pays who, when they pay, net 45, all the payment stipulations, all the variables you need for an invoice. So I can go from upload to invoice generation. And that means I can send the invoice at execution. And if I did that, why can't I do payment processing full end to end? And that's how we really end up making a fintech product built on top of e-signature versus building an e-signature product. Because most people ask us, what if DocuSign does it? It's like, no, DocuSign's not the competitor here. Banks and fintechs are the competitor here. My question would be, what happens if Stripe does this? Then I've got a problem.
oh, right, right, for sure. So your example with it was with the at the kind of sales rep level. But you go a step further than that, right? In terms of helping with red lines, in terms of that's where a lot of things go. Can you talk about that in terms of
Yeah. So you had mentioned like we give away e-signature for free. So anyone who's listening, if you're paying for DocuSign, just like today's the last day you'll ever pay for DocuSign, come on to agree.com, sign up, full self-serve. You can email me, Marty@agree.com. I'll white glove you. I'll put everything together for you. But we do monetize, right? So we do charge and we do have a monthly SaaS subscription, but it's not like we put caps. There's no like trial period that ends. A signature and invoicing, always free, unlimited. What we charge for is collaboration features and collaboration between legal, finance, and sales, right? So this is where those three groups, they've never really had a collaborative environment that was around the central point of truth, the contract. Right now, they all have they're all siloed in an organization and their software stack is siloed. Legal lives in Ironclad. Sales doesn't have a seat in Ironclad. Sales lives in Salesforce. Legal doesn't have a seat in Salesforce. Finance lives where they live, and neither sales nor legal have a seat there. And so you have this missing synergy where, again, Sales wants to know what's going on with the payment. Legal wants to know when an editor review is made. They want to know if you changed the discount rate. Did you break the max 15% that you weren't allowed to go over? Did you get approval for it? So everybody wants eyeballs into the full life cycle. But now we can create, I'm not saying we're going to get into the Slack business, but a collaborative environment where those groups come together for the first time.
Right. And are you seeing yet? Yeah, I imagine what's going to happen is some big vendors who can pretty much name who they're going. Let me reverse it a little bit. If you're IBM, you can tell anyone you're going to work with, you're going to use DocuSign or whatever we choose.
Yeah.
Are you finding, or do you think you'll find that some companies will actually demand that the seller uses Agree so that this red line process is easier? Do you think that will happen?
So, I mean, let's just call that like a 10-year hope, right? 10 years from now, that's the ecosystem we live. To be perfectly candid, like we're not that strong. And you know the reason that we're not that strong? It has nothing to do with DocuSign or any of those incumbents. Your question right there, who owns the original creation of the legal document is the legal team. For better or worse, they love creating that thing in Microsoft Word. Until
Okay.
that's not true, right? Until I've out Microsoft Word for lawyers, which is that's what I think would take me 10 years to do. That's not going to happen, right? So they're still going to use Microsoft Word, but then they're going to go into a platform. It's just the same with anyone in finance. It's going to be really hard to get them out of Excel. Like they love Microsoft Excel.
Yeah,
And
no,
so
that
Google
makes
Sheets
sense.
is great. I love Google Sheets, but you're not getting a CFO into Google Sheets. They're going to be in Excel.
Yeah, I think you and I both know though that 10 years, who knows what the world's going to look like in 10
Exactly. That's
years,
kind of why I
right?
said that as my, it might not take me 10 years, but if I were to do something like that, it's not something I'm going to, move fast and break things in the next like 3 months, 6 months. It's going to be a journey, but it's also why we're not building an ironclad competitor. We're not trying to sell into legal teams. We want to sell seats to legal teams, but because they're collaborating with their partners in sales, like this is really a sales tool. And it's really anyone that sends things out for signature that's around they're working with their client or their partner, right? So I usually just call that sales.
Got it. And so how about use cases? What are you seeing there in terms of what did you imagine and what are you kind of surprised by? Or what are you seeing in terms of use cases that might be even out of the ordinary of what you thought of?
Yeah. So, product startup journey, sort of 0 to 1, just very common is, you build fast, you iterate quickly, you launch fast. The old adage of if you're not embarrassed by your first version, you launch too late. Like we believe in that wholly, which means we have to grow our customer base as our product matures. So right out of the gate, right, limited maturity doesn't do a whole lot. So it's great for freelancers and contractors because it's self-service, and it's great for everything that's not payments before we have mature payments functionality. So NDAs, LOIs, MSAs, like use Agree. You can still use Agree for all of those things. You don't have to use this for payments. But as we mature, it's like, okay, we have invoicing, we have payments. Like let's get on some people that are a little bit more upmarket. As I start to build out more of these collaborative features, let's move more upmarket. As we start to build in so more AR AP automation features, let's start to build more enterprise upmarket. So we'll always grow. But some of the things that surprised us right out of the gate, the fear I had just going into my own network as soon as we launched, even with the closed beta, was not everyone has an agreement they need to send like tomorrow. So it's like I could ping you and be like, "Hey Joe, could you help me out?" And you're like, "Yeah." In a couple months when I have something to send, I'll send it, but like I don't have anything tomorrow. I was shocked out of the gate how many folks were like, I have something like right now. I'm like, oh, well, I wasn't going to invite you to the beta till next week. They're like, no, Marty, right now. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is so stressful. It's the inverse stress I thought I was going to have. Um, Other folks, like I was just surprised how big like the wedding photography market was. Like we're not tackling that, but like just shocked at like, the needs they have and just like they're looking for more tooling that's all in one, all inclusive. Another thing, like our MVP is built on Stripe. We're also getting our own MTLs and moving onto our own Rails, but right out of the gate, Stripe has a whole bunch of really interesting functionalities. One of them is that, you can pay with credit card, ACH wire, but they also have an Affirm integration. And I was like, huh, wouldn't that be kind of cool if you sign now, pay later? Like that'd be a cool
Yeah.
twist. And I was like, yeah, but it sounds funny. It's a cute marketing gimmick, but like, oh no, a wedding photographer would love that, right? Because if you're doing a wedding, you're lining up all your vendors at the same time, and you're doing them about 6 months before the wedding, which is a firm's thing, right? 6 months pay. But like you're getting a DJ and a wedding photographer, and a florist, and somebody to make the cake. Like it's a lot of expenses. You'd
Yeah.
probably like to. It's like, huh? I bet more wedding photographers could get more clients on board if they had sign now, pay later. It's like, but it's just like, again, I don't know if that's really on our roadmap, but I just thought like, oh, interesting. Never saw that one coming. Data point that kind of threw me for a second. It's not a big focus of ours. The other one too was just ourselves. We used the first prototype of our product to raise our own venture capital funding
What you
because
did.
I couldn't pitch agree for 30 minutes. At the end of it, send you a DocuSign, right? That'd be a +1 to DocuSign. So we knew so the prototype was very limited. It did one thing. It only ever had 8 users, and it was our 8 institutional investors. And we made the joke that your demo is signing, and if you can't sign, right, you literally can't invest. So they all thought that was funny, and it worked, and they all signed. But the prototype just did our own safe. But that's we raised $3 million. That's $3 million that could fund through the platform. It's like, oh wow, think about all the founders raising pre-seed and seeds. Like that's billions of dollars. That'd be kind of cool if that went through the platform. But again, not something we thought about initially, not something that we thought, hey, we'd build a business around. So like just an edge case, a niche, like something we want to keep a pulse on, something we want to be responsive to, but not a core focus.
But meanwhile, because you have this freemium kind of starter plan, I think a lot of those edge cases are going to find you, and it's
Yeah, yeah.
interesting. And kind of related to that is your domain is amazing. What can you tell me there? Like, how did that happen? Like, how do you get agree.com?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, we didn't pay the 1.8 million that friend.com paid. But we loved the name Agree. Another little like, again, we've said the word DocuSign many times in this call, so let's just go right into it. If you go to DocuSign.com right now, they recently redid their website. The word agree or agreement shows up 22 times. The word sign or e-signature shows up 5 times. So we're on to something. I'm not going to say they did that because of us, but we're definitely on to something. It's the right noun verb combination. So we were always excited about the word agree. We've had that in the back of our mind probably since like 2021. So it's been a while when we were just tinkering with like what this thing would be called, that we were always experimenting with in the back of our heads for deal flow. But agree.com, where we have a different domain that's played on, I think it's agree.xyz. And I think at one point, my co-founder Will was just like, Marty, actually, I never thought about this before, which is silly, but it's like, well, have you ever gone to agree.com? I was like, no. It's like, well, what if one of our investors just goes there? Like, what's there? Let's make sure it's not like a porn site or something. I don't know. Never, funny. I never thought to go. It seems like such an obvious thing. So we just went, saw a website that was in the footer, hadn't been updated since 2018. So I was like, huh, I don't think they're doing anything with this thing. And they might be, but I looked up the founder, the owner on LinkedIn, and just pinged him, sent a DM. I acquired a few other domains in the past. My name's Marty, and I actually own Marty.com. So I knew the domain name game pretty well. Just tried to go in strong, kind of like hey, here's an offer that I think, you would find respectful. If you're ever considered selling, would love to have a conversation. And he wrote back pretty quickly and just said, no, but you're close enough that I'll get on a call with you. And so we got on a call, and it was about 4 months back and forth. So it took a little bit, but eventually he was willing to part ways with it, thankfully.
Well, whatever it was worth it. I mean, the
Yeah. Well, for
instant,
us, a lot of times, because we're pre-seed and we just raised 3 million, so you could make the argument, because I've heard people say like, oh, you get a great.com at like your Series A, all this kind of like. But for us, it's two things. One, the fact that he was willing to sell it, and that scares me, because like, what if somebody else buys it in the time between pre-seed and Series A? It's a lifetime for us. But if he gets it in his head, he really wants to sell this thing now because I've incepted it, that's a problem. The other is DocuSign, who we're initially going up against as our wedge to get customers. They've been around for 22 years and they defined the market. They created the market, right? They're the incumbent and the market leader still, $12 billion company. When you and I are going to do a deal, it's just a natural thing to be like, hey, send me the DocuSign. Like it's kind of a verb, right? So
That's right.
that's a problem for us. I need a domain that when I buy it, what I'm buying is trust. Because I need your customer, right? Who I can convince you all day long just being a good salesman, but who you send it to sign and to move money, they have to feel like there's trust back here. If I'm going to move $33,000 through the platform, I have to feel trust in doing that. And so Agree is one of these like, oh, it might feel like almost a little higher end product than DocuSign. It's one thing I didn't know about because again, I don't really love talking about like other players in the space, but one of the things we've heard about PandaDoc, great product on the e-sig side, but people don't like using it because they think their customers think they're cheap. You only use PandaDoc because you didn't want to pay for DocuSign. And it's a cute name, Panda, but it's not a serious name. And so we needed
Right.
because we're going more enterprise. So we needed something more serious. And so it's like, yeah, let's just pull the trigger on it. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's just instant credibility for marketing, for what you just said about trusting the contract, everything. So big congrats on that as well. And we'll wrap up with this because I promised I'd let you out of here. Now being on the other side of it and in doing a raise, like talking to some founders that are maybe watching this, like did you learn anything or was there anything particularly interesting or anything you just want to share about what that process was of getting the seed funding?
Yeah, I mean, I've got millions of little tidbits of advice for founders fundraising. The first one, I'll say one quick one, then I'll answer your actual question about this raise. But the big one that I think is most important, I hate this advice that you have to hear 100 no's to get to a yes. I don't think that's true. What you have to do, you have to pitch 99 times before you perfect it. So you gotta tell the pitch 99 times, and I think that was true for us. And we just kept saying now. I can do the pitch cold, I can do it blindfold, and it resonates and it hits, and I get everyone's attention right away. But that's not because I'm a great pitch person, not because I figured it out. It's because I screwed it up 99 times before, and I listened where people dozed off, where people fell asleep. But to your question about this fundraise, what I learned my co-founder was astute to it and told me to stop doing what I was doing. Is one example I'll use is in talking about e-signature in money movement. I wanted to use an example that I knew everyone would be familiar with, but it ended up becoming a distraction. The example I used was signing a lease agreement because I think, hey, no matter, even if you're a billionaire venture capitalist, at some point in your life, you signed a lease agreement. And I thought like what I really liked was in leases, one of the things that I hate about when I sign a lease to live in an apartment is I sign it, like I start March 1st is my lease time. I don't know when it ends. Does it end like February 28th or does it end March 31st? I can never remember like which one is it. And so I'd love a smart product that like wasn't a dumb PDF that actually like reminded me. And this is one of the things our product does, but like, 60 days before when I need to renew it, send me a little alert, send me a push notification. So I use this as an example, but almost every venture capitalist we talked to just immediately got hung up on like, oh, you're selling to landlords. This is landlord tooling. And it's like, oh, they put me in a box. Then I get 30 minutes with it. 25 minutes of it was about selling to landlords. And I was like, oh my gosh, guys, I'm so sorry. I said, like, this isn't about landlords. I don't put me in that box. This is not landlord tooling because they want to tell me how like hard it is to sell into them, how competitive it is, how much noise there is. And all that's true. I'm like, it was just an example. I'm so sorry. And so Will was like, Marty, you're never allowed to say lease again. You cannot say lease. I was like, okay. So I am forbidden from saying lease ever again in a pitch because it's not a bad thing. No VC has an objection to investing in someone that sells landlord tooling or sells into the leasing commercial or residential markets. It just took all the oxygen out of the room and it's all
Yeah.
we spend all our time. And so I want from a founder's perspective, the advice is make sure that you're controlling the conversation. So that if you get 30 minutes, at least 25 of it is what you want to talk about. And if you find that that's not true, the pitch is not working. It's not the VC's fault. It's your fault. You control it. Go back, figure out the pitch. You haven't done your 100 yet.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice and a great note to end on. Marty Ringlein, this is awesome. If I can, maybe someday I'll have you back on. You can talk just about some of your advice for founders because
100%.
both
Would love
sides.
it.
Awesome. Hey, have a great weekend. Thanks for talking
You
to me.
too. All right. Take care.